I told you, this thing is bigger than Nino Brown, and I got a list of proof.
Order.
If I'm going down,
Order in
I'm
the
taking a
court.
whole lot of
I
people
said
with me.
order in the court.
Nino Brown Boxing, and I'm back in the building. Shout out to the LDBC. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. So, guys, I just got finished listening to 78 Stream, and he's talking about the Errol Spence, Danny Garcia fight, it being official, and his thoughts on it. And that got me thinking a lot because 78 made a lot of great points, and one of the points that I've been focused on a lot is basically about your Dennis Ugas. Now, I also read that article as well when the WBC confirmed that Ugas is mandatory for the WBC welterweight title. Now, obviously, their convention hasn't happened yet, and at this moment in time, well, October 4th, 2019, it's on a Friday, Errol Spence is basically having a he's basically having a voluntary defense against Danny Garcia at this point in time. So, my understanding of it all is Ugas was the mandatory for the IBF side. You know, he went over. He did get a shot at Sean Porter, but hey, man, from what I've seen with my own eyes, I watched that fight over and over again. I saw the knockdown, and only thing I can do is base this shit off of what actually played out and what I saw. And my eyes have told me, and my eyes are telling me that he got the knockdown. Ugas got the knockdown on Sean Porter. With that being said, if that knockdown was counted, Ugas would have been the WBC champ, and then he possibly would have been in the unification with Errol Spence. But he was robbed of that opportunity, and then he went on and he fought Omar Figueroa. Now he's a mandatory once again, and it seemed like Ugas is on a path to being screwed over. I don't know how it's going to play out, but all I can say is what's going to happen now. But then ultimately, I mean, Errol Spence may face Ugas right after that, because do I think Errol Spence is going to get a Manny Pacquiao fight at this point? I highly doubt it. I feel like it's a 10% chance that happens. And then especially with all of this Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao rematch talk coming about, it definitely lowers that percentage even more. So that's one factor. The other factor is it's still all of the bullshit when it comes to the whole Terrence Crawford situation. Once again, it has just been confirmed that Errol Spence, by him being surprised with the whole Danny Garcia fight, with Errol Spence wanting to run it back with Sean Porter, he clearly doesn't pick his own fights. Because now we're at a point where we have to say, well, which one is it? Errol Spence, he picks his own fights and he lied, or he doesn't pick his own fights and he was caught off guard. But that puts us in a position where it doesn't really matter what Errol says in the media, or what he puts out on his social media. Whatever the PBC decides, that's what's ultimately going to happen. And that's why I feel like it's a lot. I feel like it has when it comes to these Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence negotiations, I feel like it has a lot less to do with the fighters and more so to do with the banner they're fighting under. Because some people will say, well, if Crawford comes over to the PBC, he'll have that fight. But it's like, I wouldn't be too confident about that. Obviously, things are strategically mapped out, and a lot of the things that are strategically mapped out, it come off that like they're in the best interest of the boxing fans, because I know me personally, PBC puts on the best cards and I'm thoroughly entertained. But at the same time, I guess it comes off as it's hard for me to have a large amount of confidence that even if Terrence Crawford decided to buy himself out of his contract and go over to PBC today, I don't think Terrence Crawford will have an Errol Spence fight this summer. I don't think he'll have, this upcoming summer. I don't think Terrence Crawford will have an Errol Spence fight in the fall or the winter by the end of next year. Because it's still a lot of factors that aren't being taken into consideration. We still have the whole mandatory thing. Danny Garcia is not an IBF mandatory. Errol Spence, if he's going to remain unified in the welterweight division, he has to face his mandatory. We all know how the IBF goes, and this would have been a perfect opportunity if he wasn't going to rematch he wasn't going to rematch Sean Porter. Instead of taking the Danny Garcia fight, faces IBF mandatory. Now, I'm sure the WBC makes it a lot easier in their convention, and they basically unjustly strips Ugas of his mandatory spot, even though he won a final eliminator against Omar Figueroa. If they strip Ugas of his mandatory spot and gift it to Danny Garcia, then it makes the route a little easier. But if the WBC does not do that, and this upcoming fight with Danny Garcia is strictly a voluntary defense, Errol Spence still has his WBC mandatory and his IBF mandatory, which will definitely prolong. It will definitely prolong any other unification bouts. So man, I'm at a point where it's like, I've already believed that a lot of these guys, they're not ducking each other. But now it's a lot of the criticism. It don't matter if you're a Bud fan. It don't matter if you're a Spence fan. The criticism that either one of these guys get, I feel like it's unjust because ultimately they're not making the decisions. I mean, if Danny Garcia can be rewarded that opportunity, obviously you gotta wait your turn. You gotta wait in line in order to get put in that put in that great position. And then when you get put in that position, you gotta put in that work. So a guy like Ugas, like I feel like I just feel like Ugas is getting the short end of the stick, and it's kind of messed up. Ultimately, once again, we don't know how things are going to play out, but at this point in time, Errol Spence and the Ugas fight should have already happened. If it didn't happen on the IBF side, it should be happening next on the WBC side. So we just got to see how things play out, but I just find it interesting, and I just feel, even with this upcoming fight with Danny Garcia, if Errol Spence has a close fight with Danny Garcia, a lot of this 154-pound talk, and I'm not even going to speak on middleweight, a lot of the 154-pound talk needs to cease. It just needs to be put on a dramatic hold. Now, I feel like Errol Spence could definitely go up to 154 and compete, but my expectation previously that Errol Spence, if he went up to 154, just give him a little bit of time and get acclimated, but he could take over the division. Now, if he has a close fight with Danny Garcia, I'm not going to say I'll reconsider it. My mind will definitely be changed. And I feel like he'll have to take care of a lot more business at 147. And whatever things that goes on in this camp in preparation for these fights, they're going to have to be altered as well. But I guess, guys, we're getting a fight with Danny Garcia and Errol Spence, January 24th, 2020. And let's see what news come out in the meantime. It's Nino Brown Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. I'm out.